A capuchin sits in front of two identical cups, upside down. Food is hidden under one. A hand reaches in and points at the right one, the way you'd point something out to a friend. The monkey crosses straight to it, tips it over, and there's the food. You could call that following instructions, but in the first version of this test, when only the eyes turned to the right cup, the monkey did no better than a coin toss. The finger did. Later, a bigger group learned the same cue, and some got it right even when someone new gave it. Something carried over, and what it was is the open question. Watch the setup again, and the choice breaks into steps. Two cups, one gets baited while the monkey waits, then the cue, then the choice, then, if the cup is right, the food underneath it. That same loop runs over and over. And a finger is an easy thing to learn from. It reaches out toward the right cup, so the distance from the cue to the answer is short. A glance has to cross that same gap with nothing but a direction, a line the monkey has to carry across empty space to the cup on its own. The point, does that work for it? Closer cue, easier rule. Run it enough times, and there is a pattern sitting there to be picked up. The pointing hand keeps landing on the cup with food under it. Choose that side, eat. Choose the other, nothing. And a capuchin is very good at noticing which of its own moves pay off. The result is a learned choice. Captive capuchins can learn which visible cue leads to the baited cup, not one lucky monkey on one lucky day. Animals tested over repeated trials, picking the signaled cup more often than luck could explain. Learning which cup pays is not the same as understanding why the hand is pointing. A monkey could be following the finger the way it follows any object near food, drifting toward the nearest thing that has meant a reward before. It could be reading how close the hand is to one cup, not the meaning of the gesture. It could have simply learned that a certain shape in the world means food is on that side. Every one of those gets the cup right. Not one of them needs the monkey to know what the person has in mind. Which leaves a real question hanging. If a monkey only learned a rule about one person's hand, that rule should come apart the moment someone else gives the signal. So the setup changed. A different hand, then a different kind of signaler altogether. So a new signaler steps in. Sometimes another person, sometimes another capuchin, one the subject had never taken a cue from at all. If the whole skill was really just a rule about one familiar hand, this is where it should collapse. For some of the animals, it did not. Monkeys that had learned from a human point kept choosing the baited cup when another capuchin gave the cue instead. And when the signaler was a monkey they had never taken a cue from before, a stranger of their own kind, they still reached for the right cup more often than chance. Not every monkey, not every time, no neat number to hang it on, but enough of them, often enough, that the result holds. The learned response was not locked to one individual. One pattern in the results hints at more. Reading another monkey may have come a little easier than crossing between a person and a monkey. The evidence points that way without settling it. Something did carry from one signaler to the next. The tempting read is that the monkey grasped the point itself, the gesture, wherever it came from. But look at what stayed the same across every one of those transfers. The two cups, the hidden food, the reward for the correct reach. The whole world of the task held still while only the signaler changed. A driver learns to stop at one red light and stops at every red light after, on streets never driven before, without knowing a word of traffic law. The rule fits the new case because the new case looks like the old one. There is a name for that: generalization. A capuchin that had learned to move toward the signaled cup would carry it to a new signaler the same way, as long as the cups, the hiding, and the reward held still, which they did, every time. So what traveled might not be the meaning of a point at all. It might be a rule that never needed the meaning. Telling those two apart takes more than the same task run again. It takes changing what the cue is made of and watching what the monkey does with it. Other studies did exactly that. What they found pulls the richer reading apart. Take one experiment built around gaze and body cues. The animals had learned to follow where a person's head and body were aimed. Then the test set the head and the eyes against each other. One turned toward the correct cup, the other turned away. A monkey reading where the person was really attending would follow the eyes. These followed the head. They went with the larger, blunter movement, not the fine line of the gaze. And when the cue sat farther from the cups, or the eyes shifted while the head held still, the animals used it less well. The signal worked best when it was big and close and obvious. It behaved more like a landmark than like a window into attention. And the eyes are not beneath a capuchin's notice. In a separate study, with different animals and no cups or food in play, capuchins watched a person turn and look off towards something across the room, and they followed the look. When the target sat behind a barrier, they moved to see around it, tracing the line of sight to where it led. When they found nothing there, they mostly did not turn back to check the person's face. So on its own, the following looks less like reading a mind and more like spatial orienting, tracking a gaze to the spot it points at. Those are not the animals from the cup studies, and gaze following is not the cup task. But set side by side, they suggest the trouble with gaze in the cup task need not have been a failure to see where a person looked. A look, on its own, simply did not mark where the food was. A different study, different monkeys, asked a narrower question. These capuchins had been trained to request food by reaching toward a baited cup. On some trials, the person simply did not respond, and while they waited, her face changed, eyes on the monkey or up at the ceiling, eyes open or closed. The monkeys noticed. They looked longer at her face when her eyes were open and aimed at them. The attention registered. But the reach, the trained request itself, did not change with it. They could see they were being looked at and still point the same way whether the look meant anything or not. These do not stack into one tidy mechanism. They are separate tests, separate animals, separate questions, but they lean the same way. Each one takes a comfortable explanation off the table and leaves the plainer ones in place. The pull of the nearest, largest movement. A cue read by its size and position rather than its meaning. A rule that pays off, generalizing to a task built the same way every time. What no single study here manages to do is pull understanding cleanly apart from all of that. The monkey did not need to know what the person meant. A capuchin can notice a person's attention and still treat a point as a marker rather than a message, which returns the question to the cup itself. If understanding is set aside, what can one correct choice honestly tell us? A capuchin sits in front of two identical cups. A hand points at one. The monkey crosses straight to it, tips it over, and there's the food. The whole result rests on a small number of captive monkeys, tested over and over in a task built the same way every time. Inside those limits, the answer to how it knew comes out smaller than the finger made it look. The monkey learned that a visible cue marked the food. Point, and the food is on that side. It learned where the finger led. It did not have to learn why the person was pointing, and nothing in these studies shows that it did. Where the finger led, the monkey can learn. Why it was followed is a question the correct cup was never able to answer. Which opens a different question. Reading a cue is one thing, knowing who is giving it is another. Take the pointing finger away, and can an animal still pick one particular person out of the crowd? Not the signal, the individual. One animal has been tested on exactly that, with a photograph in place of a hand. Can sheep pick their handler from a photograph?